还有吗？
到头了啊！
没有你不能爬。这是什么？这是啥意思？不让发这个欺骗啊？
对，很棒。
那我现在就发你这个。叫人家等他走了，能不能都回头看？谁啊？好梦。好。不愧是路透，现在拍啊！
只是我想一会儿没时间拍。对，来。哦，这个不能拍，上面有时间。
对。
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the State Council Information Office's press conference. Today we will have a regular briefing on economic data. We are very pleased to have with us Mr. Kang Yi, Commissioner of the National Bureau of Statistics, and Mr. Fu Linghui, spokesperson, Chief Economist, and DG of the Department of Comprehensive Statistics of the NBS. They will give us a presentation of China's economic performance in 2025 and take your questions. Now I'll give the floor to Mr. Kang Yi. Friends from the media, good morning. It is a real pleasure to join you at this press conference hosted by the State Council Information Office. Thank you for your long time support to our work concerning statistics. Like every year, we are today to release the economic data for the past year. You have followed closely China's economic performance over the past year. Now, let me give you a brief introduction of the data concerning China's economy in 2025. Then, we will take your questions. In 2025, in the face of complex changes in domestic and global economic environment, under the strong leadership of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, all regions and departments strictly implemented the decisions and arrangements made by the CPC Central Committee and the State Council. State firmly committed to the new development philosophy and high-quality development, balanced domestic and international imperatives, ensured both development and security, implemented more proactive and effective macro policies, and made thorough efforts to develop a unified national market. As a result, the national economy pushed forward with innovation-led and high-quality development despite economic pressure. High-quality development registered new achievements, and the major targets and tasks of economic and social development were achieved successfully. The 14th Five-Year Plan got a successful conclusion. According to preliminary estimates, GDP was 140,187.9 billion yuan in 2025, an increase of 5.0% over the previous year at constant price. By industries, the value added of the primary industry was 9,334.7 billion yuan, up by 3.9% over the previous year. That of the secondary industry was 4,965.3 billion yuan, up by 4.5%. And that of the tertiary industry was 887.9 billion yuan, up by 5.4%. By quarters, the GDP for the first quarter went up by 5.4% year-on-year, up by 5.2% for the second quarter, 4.8% for the third quarter, and 4.5% for the fourth quarter. The GDP for the fourth quarter increased by 1.2% quarter-on-quarter. First, grain witnessed increased output, and good harvest and animal husbandry grew steadily. The total output of grain in 2025 was 714.88 million tons, an increase of 8.38 million tons of the previous year, or up by 1.2%. Of this total, the output of summer grain was 149.75 million tons, down by 0.1%. That of early rice was 28.51 million tons, up by 1.2%. And that of autumn grain reached 536.62 million tons, up by 1.5%. By species, the output of wheat was 140.07 million tons, the same as that of the previous year. Corn, 301.24 million tons, up by 2.1%. Rice, 209.04 million tons, up by 0.7%. And soybean, 20.91 million tons, up by 1.3%. The total output of pork, beef, mutton, and poultry in 2025 was 100.72 million tons, up by 4.2% over the previous year, surpassing 100 million tons for the first time. Of this total, the output of pork was 59.38 million tons, up by 4.1%. Beef, 8.01 million tons, up by 2.8%. Mutton, 4.96 million tons, down by 4.2%. And poultry, 28.37 million tons, up by 6.7%. The production of milk reached 40.91 million tons, up by 0.3%. And that of eggs stood at 34.98 million tons, down by 2.5%. In 2025, 719.73 million pigs were slaughtered, up by 2.4%. At the end of the year, 429.67 million pigs were registered in stock, up by 0.5%. Second, industrial production grew fast, and equipment manufacturing and high-tech manufacturing enjoyed a good momentum of growth. In 2025, the total value added of industrial enterprises above the designated size increased by 5.9% over the previous year. In terms of sectors, the value added of mining was up by 5.6%, that of manufacturing up by 6.4%, and that of production and supply of electricity, heat power, gas, and water up by 2.3%. The value added of equipment manufacturing went up by 9.2%, and that of high-tech manufacturing up by 9.4%. That were 3.3 and 3.5 percentage points faster than that of the industrial enterprises above the designated size, respectively. In terms of ownership, the value added of the state-holding enterprises grew by 4.6%, that of shareholding enterprises up by 6.3%, and that of enterprises founded by foreign investors or investors from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan increased by 3.9%, and that of private enterprises was up by 5.3%. By products, the production of 3D printing devices, industrial robots, and new energy vehicles grew by 52.5%, 28.0%, and 25.1% respectively. In December, the total value added of industrial enterprises above the designated size grew by 5.2% year-on-year, or up by 0.49% month-on-month. In December, the manufacturing PMI stood at 50.1%, 0.9 percentage points higher than that of the previous months. The production and operation expectation index was 55.5%, up by 2.4 percentage points. In the first 11 months, the total profits made by industrial enterprises above the designated size were 6,626.9 billion yuan, up by 0.1% year-on-year. Third, service sector grew steadily, and modern services enjoyed sound development. The value added of the service sector went up by 5.4% over the previous year. Specifically, the value added of information transmission, software and information technology services, leasing and business services, transport, storage and portal services, wholesales and retails, and accommodation and catering grew by 11.1%, 10.3%, 5.2%, 5.0%, and 4.9% respectively. In December, the index of services production went up by 5.0% year-on-year. Specifically, that of information transmission, software and information technology service, leasing and business services, and finance grew by 14.8%, 11.3%, and 6.5% respectively. In the first 11 months, the business revenue of service enterprises above the designated size grew by 7.8% year-on-year. In December, the business activity index for services was 49.7%, 0.2 percentage points higher than that of the previous months. The business activity expectation index for services was 56.4%, up by 0.5 percentage points. Specifically, the business activity index for industries like telecommunications, broadcast, television and satellite transmission services, monetary and financial services, and capital market services stayed within a high expansion range of 60.0% and above.
Fourth, market sales scaled up and services retails grew fast. In 2025, the total retail sales of consumer goods reached 50,120.2 billion yuan, up by 3.7% over the previous year. Analyzed by different areas, the retail sales of consumer goods in urban areas reached 43,297.2 billion yuan, up by 3.6%, and that in rural areas stood at 6,823 billion yuan, up by 4.1%. Grouped by consumption patterns, the retail sales of goods were 44,322 billion yuan, up by 3.8%. And the income of catering was 5,798.2 billion yuan, up by 3.2%. The sales of basic living goods and certain upgraded goods witnessed good momentum of growth. The retail sales of communication equipment, cultural and office supplies, sports and recreational articles, household appliances, and audiovisual equipment, and grain, oil, and food by enterprises above the designated size grew by 20.9%, 17.3%, 15.7%, 11%, and 9.3% respectively. The online retail sales reached 15,972.2 billion yuan, up by 8.6% over the previous year. Specifically, the online retail sales of physical goods were 13,092.3 billion yuan, up by 5.2%, accounting for 26.1% of the total retail sales of consumer goods. In December, the total retail sales of consumer goods went up by 0.9% year-on-year, or down by 0.12% month-on-month. The retail sales of services in 2025 grew by 5.5% over the previous year. Specifically, the retail sales of cultural, sports, and leisure services, communication information services, tourism consultation, and rental services and transportation services grew fast. Fifth, investment in fixed assets dropped year-on-year, and investment in manufacturing sustained growth. In 2025, the investment in fixed assets, excluding rural households, reached 48,518.6 billion yuan, down by 3.8% over that of the previous year. The investment in fixed assets went down by 0.5%, with the investments in real estate development deducted. Specifically, the investment in infrastructure dropped by 2.2%, and that in manufacturing grew by 0.6%, and that in real estate development declined by 17.2%. The floor space of newly built commercial buildings sold was 881.01 million square meters, down by 8.7%. The total sales of newly built commercial buildings were 8,393.7 billion yuan, down by 12.6%. By industry, the investment in primary industry went up by 2.3%, that in the secondary industry up by 2.5%, and that in the tertiary industry down by 7.4%. The private investment declined by 6.4%, or down by 1.9%, with the investment in real estate development deducted. Among high-tech industries, the investment in information services and aerospace vehicle and equipment manufacturing grew by 28.4% and 16.9% respectively. In December, the investment in fixed assets declined by 1.13% month-on-month. Sixth, Imports and exports of goods grew steadily and trade structure continued to optimize. In 2025, the total value of imports and exports of goods was 45,468.7 billion yuan, an increase of 3.8% over that of the previous year. Specifically, the total value of exports was 26,998.2 billion yuan, up by 6.1%, and the total value of imports was 18,479.5 billion yuan, up by 0.5%. The imports and exports by private enterprises increased by 7.1%, accounting for 57.3% of the total value of imports and exports, 1.8 percentage points higher than that of the previous year. The imports and exports with the Belt and Road partner countries grew by 6.3%, accounting for 51.9% of the total value of imports and exports. The exports of high-tech products grew by 13.2%. In December, the total value of imports and exports of goods was 4,263 billion yuan, up by 4.9% year-on-year, among which the total value of exports was 2,535.9 billion yuan, up by 5.2%. That of imports was 1,727.1 billion yuan, up by 4.4%. Seventh, consumer prices was generally stable and core CPI registered moderate rebound. In 2025, the CPI maintained the same level as that of the previous year. Grouped by commodity categories, prices for food, tobacco, and alcohol went down by 0.7%, clothing up by 1.5%, housing up by 0.1%, articles and services for daily use up by 0.9%, transportation and communication down by 2.6%, education, culture and recreation up by 0.8%, medical services and healthcare up by 0.8%, and other articles and services up by 9.3%. In terms of food, tobacco, and alcohol prices, the prices for pork went down by 6.1%, fresh vegetables down by 3.9%, grain down by 1%, and fresh fruit up by 1.2%. The core CPI, excluding the prices of food and energy, grew by 0.7%, 0.2 percentage points higher than that of the previous year. In December, the CPI went up by 0.8% year-on-year, 0.1 percentage points higher than that of the previous month. The month-on-month growth was 0.2%. In 2025, the producer prices for industrial products went down by 2.6% over that of the previous year. In December, the prices went down by 1.9% year-on-year, or up by 0.2% month-on-month. In 2025, the purchasing prices for industrial producers went down by 3% over that of the previous year. In December, the prices dropped by 2.1% year-on-year, or up by 0.4% month-on-month.
Number 8, employment was generally stable and urban surveyed unemployment rate was steady. In 2025, the urban surveyed unemployment rate averaged 5.2%. In December, the urban surveyed unemployment rate was 5.1%. The surveyed unemployment rate of population with local household registration was 5.3%, and that of population with non-local household registration was 4.7%, of which the rate of population with non-local agricultural household registration was 4.4%. The urban surveyed unemployment rate in 31 major cities was 5.1%. The employees of enterprises worked 48.6 hours per week on average. In 2025, the number of rural migrant workers totaled 301.15 million, 1.42 million more than that of the previous year, or up by 0.5%. Specifically, local migrant workers totaled 121.09 million, up by 0.1%. Outbound migrant workers totaled 180.06 million, up by 0.8%. Number 9, household income continued to increase, and income growth of rural households outpaced that of urban households. In 2025, the nationwide per capita disposable income of households was 43,377 yuan, a nominal growth of 5.0% over that of the previous year, or a real increase of 5.0% after deducting price factors. In terms of permanent residents, the per capita disposable income of urban households was 56,502 yuan, a nominal growth of 4.3% over the previous year, or a real growth of 4.2%. The per capita disposable income of rural households was 24,456 yuan, a nominal growth of 5.8% over the previous year, or a real growth of 6.0%. The median of the nationwide per capita disposable income of households was 36,231 yuan, a nominal increase of 4.4% over the previous year. Grouped by income quintile, the per capita disposable income of low-income group reached 10,150 yuan, the lower middle-income group 22,702 yuan, the middle-income group 35,536 yuan, the upper middle-income group 55,586 yuan, and the high-income group 103,778 yuan. In 2025, the nationwide per capita consumption expenditure was 29,476 yuan, a nominal growth of 4.4% over the previous year, or a real growth of 4.4% after deducting price factors. The per capita consumption expenditure on food, tobacco, and alcohol accounted for 23% of the per capita consumption expenditure, which is also the Engels coefficient, which is down by 0.5 percentage points compared with that of the previous year. The nationwide per capita consumption expenditure on services went up by 4.5%, accounting for 46.1% of the per capita consumption expenditure, the same as that of the previous year. Number 10. Total population went down, and urbanization rate continued to grow. By the end of 2025, the national population, including the population of 31 provinces, autonomous regions, and municipalities, and the servicemen, but excluding residents of Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, and the foreigners living in the 31 provinces, autonomous regions, and municipalities. The total population by this standard was 1,404.09 million, a decrease of 3.39 million over that of the end of 2024. In 2025, the number of births was 7.92 million, with a birth rate of 5.63% per thousand. The number of deaths was 11.31 million, with a mortality rate of 8.04 per thousand. The natural population growth rate was minus 2.41 per thousand. In terms of gender, the male population was 716.05 million, and the female population was 688.04 million. The sex ratio of the total population was 104.19. In terms of age structure, the population aged 16 to 59 was 851.36 million, accounting for 60.6% of the total population. The population aged 60 and over was 323.38 million, accounting for 23% of the total population. Specifically, the population aged 65 and over was 223.65 million, accounting for 15.9% of the total population. In terms of urban-rural structure, the permanent residents in urban areas were 953.80 million, an increase of 10.3 million over the end of the previous year. The permanent residents in rural areas were 451.09 million, a decrease of 13.69 million. The share of urban population in the total population, which is also called urbanization rate, was 67.89%. 0.89 percentage points higher than that at the end of the previous year. In terms of education level, the average years of schooling among the population aged 16 to 59 reached 11.3 years, 0.1 years higher than that of the previous year. Generally speaking, the national economy sustained momentum of steady progress in 2025 despite multiple pressures. And high-quality development registered new achievements. However, we must be aware that the impact of changes in the external environment is growing. The contradiction of strong supply and weak demand in the domestic market is prominent, and the numerous long-standing issues and new challenges still remain in the economic development. Going forward, we must follow the guidance of Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, fully implement the agreements made by the 20th CPC National Congress, its subsequent plenary sessions and the Central Economic Work Conference, adhere to the principle of pursuing progress while ensuring stability and improve quality and increase efficiency. We must adopt more proactive and effective macro policies, continue to expand domestic demand, improve supply, optimize allocation of new resources, and make the best use of existing ones. We must develop new quality productive forces tailored to local conditions, advance construction of a unified national market, and promote effective qualitative improvement and reasonable quantitative growth of the economy so as to get the 15th five-year plan period off to a good start. Thank you. Now the floor is open for questions. Please identify your media organizations before raising your questions. Thank you. With business news, 2025 was the concluding year of the 14th five-year plan period. What is your assessment of China's economic performance in 2025? Thank you for your question. 2025 is the concluding year of the 14th five-year plan. It is also a year of special significance for China's modernization. China's development journey has been extraordinary, and the achievements are encouraging. The economy has moved toward higher quality and more innovation-driven development despite various pressures, and all the major targets have been completed. The 14th five-year plan has come to a successful conclusion, and the new journey toward the second centenary goals is off to a good start. I would like to use 4 keywords to sum up China's economic performance in the previous year, which is stability, progress, innovation, and resilience. First, the structure of stable growth has been reinforced. Stability is a prominent feature of China's economic performance in 2025. In the face of drastic changes in external environment and the complex and serious situation of mounting difficulties and challenges at home, China has adopted more proactive and effective macro policy, which has not only enabled us to absorb the negative impact of external environment and also strengthened the fundamentals of China's development and reinforced the foundation of economic development. In 2025, China's GDP leaped to a new level of 140 trillion RMB for the first time, up by 5% compared with the previous year. The surveyed urban unemployment rate averaged 5.2%, and the employment was kept generally stable. Trading goods hit a new high, and the balance of foreign exchange reserve surpassed $3.3 trillion. For a large economy like China, it is indeed not easy for us to achieve such level of stable development against the backdrop of the mixture of risks and challenges. Second, stronger momentum of progress. In 2025, despite the more complex domestic and international environment and the mounting pressure on ensuring stable growth, we remain committed to high-quality development, speed up the transition of growth drivers, further deepen and substantiated reform and opening up. And our economy had demonstrated a momentum toward higher quality. The economic structure continued to adjust and optimize. The value added of high-tech manufacturing in that of industrial enterprises above the designated size rose to 17.1%, and contribution of final consumption to economic growth surpassed 50%. Reform and opening up continued to deepen. The construction of the unified national market made further progress. The law on the promotion of private economy was formally enacted, and the policy to rectify evolutionary competition made progress. The Hainan Free Trade Port started island-wide special customs operation, and a major step has been made in high-quality opening up. In 2025, China's total imports and exports increased by 3.8%. Livelihood support were also effective. Per capita disposable income increased by 5.0% in real terms, which is in tandem with economic growth. And old age, childcare, and medical and other livelihood undertakings made new progress. Third, stronger dynamism for innovation-driven development. In 2025, innovation-driven development is a prominent feature of China's economic performance. R&D intensity reached 2.8%, 0.11 percentage point higher than the previous year, and also surpassing the average level of OECD countries for the first time. According to the data of WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization, China made into the world top 10 in the Innovation Index ranking for the first time. From the new exploration in basic research to new breakthroughs in key technologies, from the deep integration between scientific and industrial innovations to the application of R&D results that bring benefits to people's livelihood. China has made new progress in frontier sectors like artificial intelligence, quantum technology, and a brain-computer interface. A number of major sci-tech achievements have been produced, and new quality productive forces continue to strengthen. In 2025, value added of digital product manufacturing enterprises above the designated size rose by 9.3%. Production of servers and industrial robots experienced rapid growth. Green power, green energy, and green economy thrived, and the proportion of new energy vehicles in total new car sales surpassed 50%. Fourth, more notable features of resilience. In 2025, the world economic and the trade order was dealt with a heavy blow, and the shift in growth drivers in China at home faced hiccups. Despite these circumstances, the Chinese economy still achieved leaping quantity and upgrading quality, which fully demonstrates China is capable of adapting to changes and its resilience against the pressure in an unstable and unpredictable environment. Globally, China continues to rank among the fastest-growing major economies, and China is still the most stable and most reliable engine for global growth. China's contribution to global economic growth is expected to reach about 30%, and the diversified trade structure is taking shape at a faster pace. Currently, China is already a major trading partner for more than 150 countries and regions. High-tech and high value-added products have become the bulk of China's export growth, and our foreign trade has demonstrated strong resilience. In 2025, the export of high-tech products increased by 13.2% compared to the previous year. So China's performance in the above four dimensions is a reflection of the stable foundation, multiple strength, strong resilience, and the great potential of China's economy. They are also the result of the enterprising efforts and hard work of all the Chinese people. And China's economic performance, has enhanced our confidence in achieving better development. That said, we are also soberly minded that the old problems and new challenges remain in our economic development. The impact of the changes in the external environment is deepening. The contradiction of supply and demand in the domestic market remains prominent, and there are still multiple risks and potential dangers in key sectors. We must face up to these challenges, manage our own affairs well, and make great efforts to stabilize employment, enterprises, market expectation, enhance the internal dynamism of development, and achieve effective qualitative improvement and rational quantitative growth, and ensure the Chinese economy continue to make steady progress despite all these complicated environment. Thank you.
CCTV. Since the 14th five-year plan period, China's GDP reached 110 trillion yuan, 120, 130, and 140, successively. Can you tell us what this means? How should we view these developments? During the 14th five-year plan period, Chinese economy faced multiple unexpected impacts, and we have effectively responded to a series of major challenges and risks and grew stronger along the way. The GDP continues to reach new heights. In 2025, it reaches 140 trillion yuan. This is a very remarkable feat. Fully demonstrates that Chinese economy has a steady upward trend. It shows that it has the resilience to press ahead, as well as vitality for new and improved development. What does this mean? I think there are several aspects of it. First, this means that Chinese economy has more solid foundations and greater capabilities in countering risks. In the 14th five-year plan period, the Chinese GDP made 4 leaps, reaching 110 trillion, 120 trillion, 130 trillion, and 140 trillion yuan successively. Such a great economy corresponds to great production capabilities. The grain output continues to reach 1.4 trillion jin for 2 consecutive years. The added value for manufacturing ranks the first in the world for 16 consecutive years. The share of value added by services in GDP rose to 57.7%. We also have the largest, widest covering internet infrastructure. These are all solid foundations and great supports for us to counter the risk and ensure steady growth. Second, this means that we have greater achievements and more solid progress in pursuing high-quality development. The substantial and continued growth of Chinese economy is indispensable from high-quality development. The 140 trillion yuan economy is the result and a telling example of implementing the new development philosophy. For 5 years, the new quality productive forces continue to grow. For the first time, China becomes the top 10 on Global Innovation Index. The annual increase of value added by high-tech manufacturing firms above designated size reaches 9.2%. Artificial intelligence, 5G technologies, and other technologies are booming, empowering many industries. We have cleaner and low-carbon energy supplies. The new energy products have greater market competitiveness. We further ensured livelihoods. The increase in household income synchronizes the economic growth. These achievements demonstrate that we have a right path of high-quality development and great effects. They also accumulated great momentum for future development. Third, this means that China provides solid support and broader room for cooperation for the world. In the 14th five-year plan period, China's contribution to world economic growth, annual contribution reaches around 30%. With its complete industrial system, China serves as the ballast for global supply chains. It injects much-needed stability for a world economy that is turbulent. What's even more important, China has always served as an important opportunity for global development. In 2025, the volume of goods imports hit another new height, reaching 18.5 trillion yuan, providing broad marketplace for all countries. The negative list for foreign investments continues to shorten. We continue to provide more with visa exemption policies. China's entry policy was further improved, greatly facilitating the people-to-people exchanges and economic and trade cooperation. China, with its concrete actions, provides all countries in the world with cooperation opportunities. Thank you. Thank you for your question. These are two questions. On your first question, in 2025, Chinese economy has pressed ahead despite pressure and achieved new and improved development. The primary targets were fully realized, which demonstrated the great resilience and vitality of Chinese economy. And has also laid a solid foundation for the economic development of this year. From the start of the year, in near-term perspective, there are positive changes in production, prices, and expectations. And we have a continued trend of stability and growth. In December 2025, the year-on-year growth rates of value added of industrial enterprises above designated size and service sector production index were all higher than previous month. The CPI grew by 0.8%, making it the largest increase since March 2023. The core CPI its increase continues to remain above 1% for 4 consecutive years. The year-on-year decline in PPI has narrowed, while it has risen for 3 months on a month-on-month basis. Both the manufacturing PMI and non-manufacturing business activity index have returned to expansion zone. In terms of policy support, the State Council's executive meeting deployed the policy package to promote domestic demand through financial and fiscal coordination. The relevant departments are accelerating the implementation in order to expand domestic demand. The 2 new policy is continuing to improve. The first batch of finance has already been delivered in advance. These have all created favorable conditions for the start of this year's economy. When we look at Chinese economy, we need to take a comprehensive view. We need to look at what's immediate in front of us, but also the long-term development. We need to look at the seasonal changes, but also the trend of the whole year. We need to look at the economic aggregate, but also the quality of development. In terms of the 2026, Chinese economy's supporting conditions and basic trends for long-term growth remains unchanged. The major trend for high-quality development of economy remains unchanged. China has the foundation and conditions to maintain the stable and good performance of the economy. On your second question, regarding the three data, in 2025, the whole year, the final consumption, total capital information, and net exports of goods and services, their contributions to economic growth were 52%, 15.3%, and 32.7%. In the fourth quarter, the final consumption, total capital formation, and net exports of goods and services, their contribution to economic growth are 52.9%, 16%, 31.1%. Thank you.
Shenzhen TV. My question is about new quality productive forces. What are the highlights in the cultivation of new quality productive forces? In 2025, China made a number of new progress in innovation-driven development, industrial upgrade, digital empowerment, and a green transformation. A new quality productive forces has transformed from a concept into real results of development. It has not only boosted the quality and the momentum of economic growth, but also proved that China has firm resolve and taken robust actions to adapt to changes and seek new breakthroughs amidst the complex environment. I would like to use 4 powers to sum up the progress in cultivating new quality productive forces. Number 1 is hard power of science and technology. In 2025, R&D expenditure reached a total of 3,926.2 billion RMB yuan. Continued ranking number 2 in the world. China is also the first country with over 5 million domestic invention patents in the world. And China has ranked number 1 in the world for 6 consecutive years in PCT patent application. The reserve of high-value patents in critical and core technology has further expanded. The building of flagship equipments has made new advances. Original and disruptive innovation outcomes continue to be generated. The Jiutian drone made its successful maiden flight. Tianwen-2 started its expedition in the universe. China's first electromagnetic catapult aircraft carrier was commissioned, and the CR-450 multiple unit trains set a new record in China's speed. And so China is making solid steps toward self-reliance in high-standard science technology. Number 2 is the innovation power in the industrial sector. Investment in high-end equipment, green energy, in intelligent manufacturing, and the emerging sectors continue to increase. And the integration of sci-tech and industrial innovation has generated new results. In 2025, the proportion of equipment manufacturing and high-tech manufacturing in the value added of industrial enterprises above the designated size reached 36.8% and 17.1% respectively. The low-altitude economy and embodied intelligence made new progress. Civilian drones, the output of civilian drones and industrial robots increased by 37.3% and 28% year-on-year respectively. Intelligent manufacturing made solid progress, and the number of intelligent factories continued to increase, and the integrated application of industrial internet is now covering all the 41 major industrial categories. Number 3 is the penetrated power of digital technology. Digital industry, digital consumption, digital infrastructure are expanding in all domains. They are integrated into the production and operation of multiple sectors and also entered the daily life of average households. In 2025, the added value of digital product manufacturing above the designated size increased by 9.3%, and that of information transmission software and information technology services increased by 11.1%. AI has become a good partner and a good aid in our everyday life and added convenience to our day-to-day life. The new scenarios and new models of consumption continue to expand, which is driving online retail sales up by 8.6%. New infrastructure construction, including 5G, gigabyte, fiber network, and Internet of Things, are making orderly progress. Number 4, the spearheading power of green development model. China is making faster steps to build a new type of energy system featuring clean, low-carbon, secure, and efficient development. In 2025, power generation using clean energy in industrial sectors above the designated size increased by 8.8%. The proportion of non-fossil fuel in total energy consumption increased by around 2 percentage points. And the output of green energy equipment, green materials, and other products made rapid progress. New energy industry, the competitiveness is increasing for new energy industries. And the production and sales of new energy vehicles both surpassed 16 million units. Green way of life is being adopted by more and more people. Green transformation in traditional sector is also making notable progress. In 2025, the enterprises above designated size in major energy-consuming industries dropped compared with last year in both construction materials, iron, steel, and non-ferrous metals. Thank you.
With CNBC over the past year, what are the highlights of consumption of services in Q4? What about the share of consumption of service and goods in terms of the total? Well, thank you for your question. Consumption of services is indeed an important highlight of economic performance in 2025. People are very interested in consumption. On this occasion, let me briefly walk you through the relevant indicators. In terms of types of consumption, there are mainly 2 types, meaning the consumption of goods and the consumption of services. And the relevant indicators, one is the total retail sales of consumer goods, which is about the consumption of goods, and the other is the retail sales of services, which is about the consumption of services. These 2 indicators are at the sales end or the supply end. In terms of the demand end, the commonly used indicator is the per capita consumption expenditure, which is based on income and expenditure. These are the mainly used indicators for consumption. So when we look at consumption, we need to look at from different perspectives. Many focus only on the retail sales of consumer goods. And your question is quite meaningful because the consumption of services is also something we need to pay close attention to. So about consumption, in 2025, China has stepped up efforts to expand domestic demand with the implementation of the program of boosting consumption. The consumption market has been expanding and its structure improved, with new consumption hotspots emerging. First, consumption has acted as an anchor. In 2025, the total retail sales of consumer goods exceeded 50 trillion yuan, an increase of 3.7% compared with the previous year, which is 0.2 percentage points faster than 2024. The total retail sales of consumer goods is among the biggest in the world. As for the consumption of services, the retail sales of services grew by 5.5% compared with the previous year. In the second half of 2025, it has been growing faster. Final consumption expenditure contributed 52% to economic growth, which is over half. 5.0 percentage points bigger than the previous year. It has acted as a main driver and anchor of economic growth. Second, consumption of services have been vibrant. With the raising of people's living standards, the consumption has been shifting from mainly about goods to about both goods and services. The potential of service consumption has been unleashed. In terms of the sales of enterprises in 2025, the retail sales of services grew by 5.5% year-on-year, 1.7 percentage points faster than the retail sales of goods. Its share in overall retail sales has been increasing. In Q4, it is also the case. Its share in total retail sales is increasing. In terms of residents' consumption in 2025, service consumption expenditure accounted for 46.1% of per capita consumption expenditure. Localities have created new consumption scenarios and improved consumption environment, including culture, tourism, recreation, and sports games. In 2025, the retail sales of tourism, advisory and leasing services, transport services, and cultural, sports, and recreational services grew at 2 digits. The total box office grew by over 20% compared with the previous year. Third, new types of consumption have boomed. E-commerce, live stream commercing, and online leisure have contributed to fast online consumption development. In 2025, online retail sales grew by 8.6% compared with the previous year. That of physical goods increased by 5.2%, accounting for 26.1% of total retail sales of consumer goods. The retail sales of unmanned store and membership warehouse stores have maintained 2-digit growth. Green consumption has been growing steadily. The output and sales of new energy vehicles have topped the world for 11 years running. AI and other digital technology has been deeply integrated into consumption scenarios, greatly contributing to the upgrading and expansion of information consumption. In 2025, the retail sales of information communication services increased by over 10% over the previous year, and debut economy, snow and ice economy, and silver economy have been popular, becoming new growth drivers of consumption. Fourth, the consumption of goods continued to increase in 2025. Retail sales of goods increased by 3.8% over the previous year, 0.6 percentage points faster than that of the previous year. The consumption of necessities such as food grew fast. The consumption of upgrading goods such as sports and recreation equipment and communication appliances enjoyed a good momentum. China has expanded its new policy of trading of consumer goods and promoted the use of high-quality and durable goods in people's lives with concrete measures. In 2025, the retail sales of office appliances, furniture, and home appliances and audio-visual equipment grew by 17.3%, 14.6%, and 11% respectively over the previous year, registering two-digit growth. In 2026, despite pressure and challenges, there are growing positive factors supporting the continued growth of consumption. The consumption market is expected to grow steadily. There are the following conditions. First, consumption upgrading boasts great potential. China has more than 1.4 billion people, a big middle-income group, and a mega-sized market with global influence. Now, residents' consumption are upgrading. There are more personalized, diversified, and quality consumption preferences, which means great potential. Second, the policy to promote consumption will continue to be felt. This year, we will continue to implement the program to boost consumption, formulate and implement the initiative to increase residents' income. In 2026, the trading program will continue to be implemented and improved. The first batch of 62.5 billion yuan in ultra-long special treasury bonds have been allocated in advance. Measures to overhaul unreasonable restrictions in consumption have been advanced. The implementation of policies will provide strong support to consumption growth. Third, the consumption environment continues to be improved. A unified national market will help to continue to improve the consumption environment. The application of new technology will increase the quality supply. Immersive and experiential consumption scenarios are being made, and the rights of consumers will be better protected, which will all help to better unleash the great potential of consumption. Thank you. The world economy has seen inadequate growth momentum and structural transformation. What do you see China's economic performance in this year? Thank you for your question. 2026 marks the beginning of the 15th five-year plan period. China's development is at a new starting point. Despite greater influence of external changes and challenges for stability and development at home, but China's economy enjoys solid foundation, many strengths, great resilience, and big potential. The underpinning and basic trend momentum for long-term growth have not changed. Generally speaking, opportunities outweigh challenges. and positive conditions are greater than negative ones. In 2026, there are the conditions and underpinning for China's economic progress amid stability. In terms of the basis, in the 14th five-year plan period, we have made solid progress in promoting high-quality development. China's economic, technological, and overall national strengths have been brought to a new level. The economic increase over the past 5 years was over 36 trillion yuan. R&D investment intensity increased by 0.44 percentage points. We have greater resources and space for development. This has forged our strengths and laid a good foundation for development in the 15th five-year plan period. The long-term steady development of China's economy is the result of the coordination of institutional, market, industrial, and talent resources and strengths. It follows a great logic and represents a great trend. In terms of the momentum, the steady economic performance in 2025 has created the conducive conditions for further development. In 2025, China's economy pressed ahead against challenges. Despite greater external influence, we have achieved a growth of 5.0%, demonstrating the resilience and vitality. And we have briefed you through the economic performance recently. Since September, core CPI has grown at above 1% for 4 months running. In December, manufacturing PMI returned to the expansion range. The flow of people, goods, and information have maintained relatively fast growth. And the positive factors for steady economic performance are accumulating. In terms of the driving force, the dividend of new quality productive forces and reform continue to be felt. We have shared with you China's development of the new quality productive forces. China is also at a critical stage of shifting toward new growth drivers. The growth of some traditional sectors and areas are slowing down. But, as I've said before, the drivers in emerging sectors are growing, which will help to offset the downward pressure and strengthen upward momentum. For example, homegrown large AI model has been developing rapidly. AI has been applied widely, and digital economy has contributed to fast progress of new quality productive forces. The value added of large digital products manufacturing grew by 9.3% every day in China. 45,000 new energy vehicles were rolled off. Over 500 million packages were delivered. Humanoid robots have made to the Spring Festival Gala, competed in the robot games, and were used in plants in large numbers. All these speak to the development of new growth drivers. We are also developing a unified national market, driven down logistics costs, adopted law to promote private economy, and adopted a number of mature and feasible reform measures will which will further invigorate the economy. In terms of the underpinning, the more proactive and effective macro policies will ensure steady economic performance. In 2025, China's economy has maintained steady growth amid a complex environment. The more proactive and effective macro policies have played an important role. The implementation of major strategies and security capacity building in key areas and large-scale equipment upgrade and goods trading programs, the adoption of measures to stabilize the employment economy and promote high-quality development, and the overhaul of evolution competition. All these have demonstrated that macro policies have played effective roles to expand demand, improve supply, and stabilize the economic performance. The increase of total retail sales of consumer goods grew by 0.2 percentage points over the past year, and value added of industry grew by 0.3 percentage points faster. The 2025 Central Economic Work Conference highlighted the need to seek progress while maintaining stability, improve the quality and efficiency, harness the integrated effects of existing and new policies, and step up counter-cyclical and cross-cycle adjustment. This year marks the beginning of the 15th five-year plan period. Different sectors will aim at our targets, ensure the implementation of key projects, which will help to form great synergy to promote development. We've noted that recently, major international organizations have upgraded their forecasts for China's economic growth, which shows that the international community is optimistic about China's development. China's economy is an ocean, not a pound. It can stand the test of winds or even storms. When we look back over the past years, for the Chinese economy, there have always been challenges. So have opportunities. We need to strengthen confidence and remain resolved for consensus and keep improving ourselves. Enhance innovation-driven development, deepen reform and opening up, continue to develop the domestic circulation and ensure effective improvement of quality and the reasonable increase of quantity of the economy, so as to bring the 15th five-year plan period to a good start. Thank you. What are the highlights of China's industrial production in 2025 and also in 2026? Industrial sector is an important part of the real economy and anchor of steady economic performance in 2025. Industrial production has been growing fast with improved structure and new growth drivers, playing an important role for steady economic performance. There are a few features. First, industrial strengths have been strengthened. In 2025, value added of industry was 41.7 trillion yuan, up by 5.8% over the past year, 0.3 percentage points faster than the previous year. It contributed to 35% of the economy, 1.8 percentage points higher than the previous year. As a major part of industry, manufacturing has increasing. In 2025, its value added was 34.7 trillion yuan. The scale of manufacturing is likely to lead the world for 16 years. China has also the strengths of a complete industrial system. And second, the industrial structure has been further improved. The high-end, green, and smart development momentum has been more notable. The value added of large and high-tech manufacturing grew by 9.2 and 9.4% respectively. For example, high-speed railway, machine tools, robots have seen their production grow fast. The production of new energy vehicles has been over 16 million yuan. It's million. The production and sales of new energy vehicles has been the biggest in the world for years. And third, industrial improvement has made steady progress with new growth drivers has been formed in traditional sectors. The value added of oil industry grew by 6.7%. The industrial transformation has been deepened, which has helped to increase business profit. In the first 11 months, the production of the profit of manufacturing business have been improving. In the first 11 months, the profit of large manufacturing enterprises grew by 5%, but it went down by 7.6% of the previous year. The profit of large and high-quality manufacturing grew by 7.7% and 10% respectively. Generally speaking, in 2025, industries have been developing steadily with improved structure, and the strengths of a complete industrial system have been brought out. At the same time, we've seen greater external influence and domestic challenges. Some companies are faced with difficulties in operation. Moving forward, we need to deepen integration of scientific and industrial integration, move faster to foster new growth drivers, and further develop the industrial sector. Next question, please.
Now that's about. According to NBS, China CPI remains flat in 2025 with a year-on-year increase of 0.8% in December, hitting a record high of the past 3 years. Does this mean less downward pressure for the prices? How should we envision the prices in 2026? Thank you for your question. The price issues have drawn a lot of attention. In recent years, China's overall price level is relatively low. In 2025, the CPI remains the same with the previous year, with slight changes in year-on-year monthly statistics. On the prices, we need to look at this in a comprehensive view. We need to look at the overall performance and also the structure of prices. We also need to view it in the light of policy effectiveness, to look at it in a dynamic manner. The CPI performance in China, the performance of CPI is largely related to a structure. The fall of food and energy prices exert a relatively large influence on the CPI. In terms of food prices, due to the favorable climate conditions, abundant hog production, abundant supply of meat, vegetable, and eggs. Due to these factors, the whole year food prices fell by 1.5% compared with last year, dragging down the CPI by about 0.27 percentage points. In terms of energy prices, affected by the international oil prices downfall, the fall of energy prices in China becomes a main factor that slows down the CPI in China. In 2025, the energy prices fell by 3.3%, dragging down the CPI by about 0.25 percentage points. In the meantime, we need to realize that the current performance of CPI has to do with the complex macroeconomic situation both domestically and internationally. It also has to do with the current development stage in China. Currently, some traditional growth drivers have slowed down, affecting the prices of some industries. The changes in external environment has also exerted greater pressure on the price adjustments within the country, but these are all just temporary. Secondly, when we look at the prices, we need to see that with emerging effectiveness of policies on expanding domestic demand, China's core CPI is on a moderate rise. With consumer goods trading programs and the production capacity adjustments in some industries, the supply-demand relationship in certain areas have been improved and relevant prices are on the rise. In 2025, the core CPI deducting food and energy prices went up by 0.7%. The increase was 0.2 percentage points higher than last year, in which in December it went up by 1.2%, maintaining above 1% for 4 months. When it looks at the breakdown, industrial consumer goods prices deducting energy prices went up by 1.1%, in which home appliances, communication tools went up by 1.8% and 0.6%. The ICE vehicles and new energy vehicles, their prices drop have narrowed. The price of services have also maintained a moderate rise. In the whole year, the prices went up by 0.5%. The third, we need to see that there are increasing favorable conditions leading to the moderate rise of CPI. In terms of the fundamentals, with the implementation of special initiatives boosting consumption, especially with new measures such as the package policies to promote domestic demand through fiscal and financial coordination, the demand for consumption is expected to gradually enlarge. There have been foundations for stable prices. In December, the CPI went up by 0.8% year-on-year. The increase is the largest since March 2023. With the New Year holiday there have been increased consumption of food. Service consumption such as outdoor dining, visiting families, friends, and tourism have been rather active. And today is, with the approaching Spring Festival holiday for 9 days, these are all conducive to the seasonal recovery of CPI. Based on preliminary statistics, since January, fresh fruits, plane tickets, and tourism, other goods and services prices have been on the rise while maintaining stability. In terms of policy support, industrial self-discipline and production capacity adjustments are continuing to become more effective. This year, we will further strengthen regulation of production capacity in key industries, improve a standard system and of qualities as well as their quality. These will all be conducive to the recovery of prices. In general, The moderate recovery of prices will be conducive to the increase of incomes for enterprises and citizens, households, but also conducive to stabilizing market expectations. We need to continue to leverage the integrated effect of macro policies, leverage household consumption, regulate market competition behavior, actively resolve the conflict between supply and demand, so as to work for the moderate rise of prices.
In the interest of time, 2 last questions. What progress has been made in the 14th five-year plan period?
What could be expected from the 15th five-year plan period? Thank you for your question. In the 14th five-year plan period, the China's economy has experienced a momentous and extraordinary journey. We forged ahead despite difficulties, effectively tackled with a series of major challenges and risks. Our social and economic development has achieved new major achievements. Specifically, there are several aspects of it. First, we realized a new leap in our economic development. In the 14th five-year plan period, the average annual growth rate of economy reached 5.4%, which far exceeds the world's average and continues to lead the world's major economies. China serves as the main engine of world economic growth. Our GDP, just as we have said, has exceeded 140 trillion RMB yuan. Counted by yearly average exchange rate, the average GDP increased from $10,633 from 2020 to $13,953 in 2025, exceeding $13,000 for 3 consecutive years. Second, we have made new breakthroughs in innovation. In the 14th five-year plan period, the nationwide R&D spending increased annually 10%. In 2025, the share of basic research spending reached 7.08%, hitting a new high in history. China has the most world top 100 innovation clusters for 3 consecutive years. The NBS has compiled the China's Innovation Index. In 2024, this index increased by 25.5% compared with 2020, in which indexes of innovation environment and output both increased by 33.8%. The share of value added by the 3 new economy in GDP rose to 18%. The share of value added by patent-intensive industries in GDP rose to 13.38%. Artificial, as well as other new generation information technology, are booming. We continue to deepen the integration between digital and real economy. The share of input of computers, communication, and other electronic equipment in manufacturing rose by around 1 percentage point, which is much higher than that in the 13th five-year plan period. In 2024, the share of value added by digital economy in GDP rose to 33.1%, in which the share of value added by the core industries of digital economy rose to 10.5%. Third, we made new strides in reform and opening up. In the 14th five-year plan period, the National Unified Markets construction have been advanced. We continue to improve the business environment. The market access negative list was reduced to 106 items. The third plenary session of the 20th CPC Central Committee deployed more than 300 reform measures. The fourth plenary session further made deployments on comprehensive reform. The reform is advancing with more breadth and depth. The high standard opening up continues to expand. The Belt and Road Cooperation continues to gain more substance. The pilot free trade zones construction are accelerating. China has removed all market access restrictions for foreign investors in the manufacturing sector. The new version of Catalog of Encouraged Industries for Foreign Investments was published. Will continue to enrich the institutional opening up. In 2021 to 2025, the annual increase of China's total goods imports and exports achieved 7%, in which the share of volume with BRI countries rose to 51.9%. The fourth, we broke new grounds for green transition. In the 14th five-year plan period, we have built the world's largest, fastest growing renewable energy system. The share of non-fossil fuel consumption rose from 16% in 2020 to 20% in 2025, more than 20% in 2025. The energy consumption per unit of GDP continues to drop, making China one of the countries that see the fastest drop in energy consumption. We've built the world's largest and most complete new energy industrial chain. The output of solar battery and wind turbine generator set, its annual increase reached 39.6% and 31.3%. The forest coverage ratio exceeds 25%, making China the largest and fastest contributor to global green coverage increase. Fifth, we made new achievements in improving people's livelihoods. In the 14th five-year plan period, the annual number of additional urban jobs is above 12 million. There have been generally stable employment performance. The annual real increase of China's per capita disposable income reaches 5.44%, synchronizing the economic growth. The poverty alleviation achievements was further reinforced. The per capita disposable income of rural households from counties lifted out of poverty continues to grow. We have continued to reinforce the world's largest education, health, and social security system. The popularization level of education at all levels has reached or exceeded that of the middle to high-income countries' average. In 2025, the average years of education for labor force between 16 and 59 years old has risen to 11.3 years. Sectors such as culture, tourism, and sports continues to boom. People's cultural life was enriched. In 2024, the share of value added by culture and tourism and relevant industries rose to 4.61% and 4.35%. Sixth, we've made new progress in guaranteeing safety. In the 14th five-year plan period, the comprehensive grain production capacity continues to grow. The total grain output grew from 1.37 trillion jin in 2021 to 1.43 trillion jin in 2025, maintaining above 1.4 trillion jin for 2 years. Chinese people have been able to hold the bowl of food firmly in their own hands. We've built a diversified energy supply system. The annual increase of total primary energy production reached 5%. We've continued to enhance the resilience and security levels of industrial and supply chains. The added value of manufacturing sector, the annual increase reaches 5.5%. The localization rate of equipment manufacturing continues to rise. The localization rates of electric machinery and transport equipment supply both exceed 95%. And what seems and it is no easy task to make such achievements. During the 14th five-year plan period, the major achievements we have made are achieved when we forcefully tackled intricate international situation, experienced the economic restructuring, industrial upgrading, and shift of economic drivers. Their hard-won results. These great achievements are attributable to the stewardship of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, as well as the scientific guidance of Xi Jinping's thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics. In the 15th five-year plan period, we continue to face a profound and complex development environment. However, the foundations for long-term growth for China remains unchanged. We continue to have strength in institutions, market, industrial systems, and talents. We will be further driven by innovation and deepen reform and opening up. These will support our high-quality development to achieve new effects. So long as we maintain the strategic focus, actively identify changes, tackle changes, and even seek changes, focus our energy to do our business right, we can definitely open up new prospects for Chinese modernization. Thank you.
In 2025, China adopted more proactive and effective macro policy. How effective are these policies, and what role have they played in promoting steady and healthy development of the economy? In 2025, various localities and departments intensified the implementation of more proactive and effective macro policy, ensured the effective implementation of existing policies, and step up efforts to launch additional policies. They made all-out efforts to stabilize employment, enterprises, market, and expectation, which have ensured the stable and positive growth of the economy and provided solid underpinning for the completion of all the major targets and tasks for economic and social development. First, these policies have ensured steady operation of the economy. In 2025, we step up and improved macro regulation and control, adopted several measures for stabilizing employment and economy and promoting high-quality development. We made coordinated use of ultra-long special treasury bonds, local government special purpose bonds, central government budget for investment, and expanded implementation of the equipment renewal and consumer goods trading programs, step up the implementation and a step up support for implementation of major national strategies and a security capacity building in key areas. Better leveraged the role of new types of policy-based financial instruments. All these have enabled us to counter the downward pressure on the economy and ensured the completion of the targets for the year. The retail sales of products in the 6 categories of the consumer goods trading program increased by 4.1%, 2.0 percentage points faster than the previous year, pulling total retail sales up by 0.6 percentage points. Investment in the purchase of equipment and instruments increased by 11.8%, pulling investment up by 1.8 percentage point. Number 2, these policies have enabled the upgrade and optimization of the economic structure. While promoting stable economic growth, the macro policies have focused more on promoting high-quality development. In 2025, 9 government ministries issued several policy measures to support consumption in services and step up support to boost consumption in services and unlock the potential of service consumption. In 2025, retail sales of services increased by 5.5% year-on-year. Since September, retail sales of services has picked up for 4 months in a row. The policy of trading program for consumer goods has brought more high-quality and durable consumer goods into average households, and the high energy efficiency home appliances and smart home products are popular among consumers. In the trading of digital products, medium and high-end models take up a larger proportion. By the end of 2025, the ownership of automobiles per 100 households reached 52.9 units, 1.7 units higher than the end of the previous year. And the policy of large-scale equipment renewal has also expedited the upgrading industries and catalyzed the rapid growth of relevant industries. In 2025, the added value of equipment manufacturing above the designated size rose by 9.2%, 1.5 percentage points faster than the previous year, and its proportion also rose to 36.8%. Number 3, these policies have have helped cultivate new growth drivers. In sci-tech innovation and industrial innovation are now more deeply integrated. The AI Plus campaign is being implemented at a faster pace. The application of industrial innovation development is making faster progress. Emerging industries and industries of the future are being cultivated. All these have provided greater dynamism for stable economic growth. In 2025, the added value of manufacturing industry for smart UAVs and smart in-vehicle devices has increased by 57 and 22.6% respectively. IC manufacturing and optoelectronic devices increased by 26.7%, 18.8% respectively. Number 4, these policies have ensured smooth circulation of the economy. We have made continued progress in building the unified national market and optimized market competition order. These have provided favorable conditions for reasonable price rise and improvement in company efficiencies. In December, core CPI rose by 1.2% year-on-year, and the increase has stayed above 1% for 4 months. And the drop in producer prices for industrial products also narrowed. PMI rose to 50.1%, and for the 11 months, the profits of manufacturing industries increased by 5.0%, while in the same period of previous year, it was a drop of 4.6%. Thank you. Thank you for the 2 spokespersons, and that's the end of the press conference today.